And so you are a Christian.
I am.
And why are you a Christian?
Why am I a Christian? Because I believe it is true. First and foremost, I'm a Calvinist, so I believe that it means I was chosen by God. It wasn't just my choice. I grew up in a Christian family. My parents were always very serious about it. I was blessed to benefit from that and really hear this message from a young age. And I appreciated it. It always made sense to me. I mean, I thought through all the criticisms, the objections, but I didn't find anything persuasive.
And so, did you grow up? Who were you closest to growing up? Your father or your mother?
I was close to both. It was a great, very close family. My mother homeschooled me, so I'm 38. So it was pretty early in the homeschool movement.
Nice.
So spent a lot of time with her, a lot more than most kids, just because she was homeschooling, and so certainly benefited from that.
As a kid, were you okay with being homeschooled, or did you want to go to a public school?
I definitely did not want to go to a public school. Going back to my point about I like independent ideas. I like outside the box ideas. I don't think I would have. My sense is public school really is a very conformist environment in many cases. I liked homeschooling. I think in high school there's pluses and minuses to it. There's things that a big high school can offer that you can't get homeschooling, but there remain benefits to the homeschooling. So
when you being homeschooled, you became a teenager at some point, 15 and older. How do you date? Because there are no girls in homeschooling.
I did not date as a high schooler. So it wasn't until later that I started dating. So as I said, there were probably, there's things you get in school that you aren't going to get home. Now, I think it's a little different today. Today, you tend to have a lot more homeschoolers. There's a lot of homeschool co-ops where different homeschoolers get together. Right. So I would say, I think we went to a small church. There's large churches. There's a lot of opportunities for homeschoolers to socialize.
And so you're married.
I am married.
You have children?
4 kids and a 5th on the way.
Right on. You're making white babies.
Making as many babies as I can, because we need to be building and creating while the other side is.
You married to a white woman?
I am.
We need more white babies. Congratulations. Make a truckload of white babies.
I am doing my best.
And does your wife obey you?
Yes.
What?
But I mean, you asked the question. Yes, she does.
And when you say she obeys you, what does that mean to you?
It means that she recognizes my leadership in the family and recognizes that I am the decision maker. I'm the ultimate leader. I'm the ultimate decision maker. Subject to God. I'm subject to God, and ultimately, if I do something, if I command something sinful, that would be an exception. But in the context of righteous decisions, I have authority in the family.
And does she work?
She homeschools.
And is she educated?
She has 3 degrees from Harvard.
Whoa. So I'm sorry to hear that, man.
It took her a few years. It took me some years to undo my 1 degree from Harvard, and maybe her a few more years to undo 3 degrees.
I say that men should not marry women who are educated because they don't make for good wives and good mothers.
You know, I think so. I met her at the Law School Christian Fellowship. I think she was clearly drawn to marriage and motherhood. It was clear that she wanted that, and she wanted it was clear that she wanted a role from the beginning that was consistent with prioritizing those.
Right on.
As much as I think our education system does so often distort the goals of women.
Yeah. And how do you deal with the hell that comes out of her sometimes? You know, you wake up in the morning, you get home from work, she's ticked about nothing. And you're like, hey, honey, hey, what do you want? Or you wake up in the morning with a nice smile and she's all grouchy looking at you. What are you smiling about? What are you dreaming about? How do you deal with the hell when it comes out of her?
I'm fortunate. I don't experience that very often. I think I don't know if it gets quite to that level. There's more and less pleasant days, but I think you show grace and recognize that I'm not perfect either. We have to show grace to each other, and
so when it comes out of her,
argue a little more than is prudent.
When it comes out of her, sometimes you show grace in that moment.
Sometimes, and sometimes I probably argue with her more than is prudent. Arguing with a woman is rarely productive.
Right, because you argue with the devil.
I mean, I think arguing. I think there's arguing. There's productive arguments, and there's arguments where that's not really the solution called for in the moment.
Do you agree with me that the God above is the man's God and the God below is the woman's God?
No, I think the God above is the same. The God above is the God of all of us, and in fact, there's a relationship. There's a clear relationship where the church is called the bride of Christ in a way that, in many ways, is analogous to how a woman is the bride of her husband. And so I think there's a parallel in many ways in these relationships that you should see in what godly leadership looks like at different
But you are the church. Your body is the temple of God.
Well, I'm part of the church, certainly, and the church being the body of believers.
And why don't you agree that the devil below is the woman's God?
That statement doesn't make sense to me. I would have to hear what I think the God above is the God of all. He's the Lord of the earth.
So why do you think the hell come through the woman if the God below is not her God?
I think hell can come through both men and women.
You're right, but the hell that comes through the man is the hell of the woman. It's been passed on to him by his mother, through his mother.
I don't know that I don't know that I would. I think it can come. I think in many ways sin passes through both, and you can see sinful patterns that pass through both as well. You can see,
but it comes through the woman.
Sinful patterns that came from a father. You can see sinful patterns that came from a mother.
But when you see it in the father, that came through him through his mother as well. But let me ask, because of time now, do you believe that when Eve listened to Satan and believed him, that he became her God?
I became her God is an interesting way of putting it. I think there's certainly a sense in which choosing Satan over God is choosing to make someone else your God. So I think there's a sense in which you could say that was true.
So
it may not have been a permanent, irrevocable choice.
And because Satan became her God, she no longer listened to her husband, because at first she obeyed her husband, but when she listened to the devil, especially after he told her not to, the devil became her God, and so she could no longer listen to her husband. And because of that, she paid a price for it. And do you believe that the woman became the man's God when Adam listened to Eve?
I think it depends on how you define God. In many ways, they were both choosing. In many ways, they were both choosing the promise of Satan. So in many ways, you could say they both chose Satan as they both chose to submit to Satan rather
Well,
than
the
to
man
God.
chose to submit to the woman. God said, because you listen to the woman, and because he said to the woman, because you listen to the serpent, you're going to have to be under him. And because you listen to the woman, you will suffer. He didn't say to the man, because you listen to the serpent. He told that to the woman. Am I right?
Yes, and I think that is an interesting, I'll say I have not extensively considered that, but I think there are interesting lessons from that. So
Yeah.